What up, y'all? It's your host, I2I35, aka Josiah David, and in this video, I want to explain to you why Adam and Eve were not white. They were in no way white. Forget all the Michelangelo paintings and all these other paintings showing Adam and Eve as white. That is flawed visual aid. If Adam and Eve were white, everyone in the world would be white today. How about if they were like in an area like between mid-brown or something like that? And because of the curse of sin, because they rebelled against God, like these skin colors started spreading out. Basically, everyone in the world would have had the same skin color if they did not rebel. But because of the curse of sin, these skin colors like started spreading out. By the way, I kind of picture God, the Lord, since He is the Father of all nations, and since He created Adam in His image. I believe God had the same skin colors as Adam, because since God is the Father of all nations and created Adam in His image, and then since because of the curse of sin, all the skin color genes started spreading out, and such as like. So forget all the Michelangelo paintings, okay? Try and see what's being done in science and what's being figured out nowadays, and to what the real skin color was like back then. I should also point out that this is a good opportunity for me to reply to chattiestspike2 about what I said about, evolution starting in the Garden of Eden. By the way, Chatty, whatever kind of like, unscientific credit you tried giving evolutionism, no, what I meant by evolution starting in the Garden of Eden is saying that, ye shall be as gods. Basically, evolutionism is a philosophy that is, look at what kind of generation is raising up now. People who think that they can become gods and like they're getting smart, we're getting smart and stuff. We're going to be descended from dumb primitives. We're smart enough to think for ourselves and stuff like that, and we will eventually be able to sail around the universe and discover new life forms like Star Trek and such as the like. By the way, I should also say that chattiestspike2, you really kind of remind me of this magician. But anyway, and what you tried to say that evolution is not racist, basically what I meant by, like, for example, Hitler, he was racist using evolution. And by the way, what you said about him saying, like, a fox will always be a fox, perhaps their attitude on what they are in carnivorous acts, their attitude, not like what they are. Basically, he had a list. Hitler had a list of types of people he listed up as closer to ape or closer to Aryan. Charles Darwin thought the Native Americans were just advanced animals. And you say, oh, evolution says we're all related. It says we're related to animals, but we're in no way related to animals. I was saying we're all related as of humans. As of humans, we are all related, and that's why I feel like giving every single person in the world a hug. But Hitler, those kind of train cars that he used to put Jews into and take them to concentration camps, those were the same kind of train cars used to put in cows or cattle or animals and stuff like that. Hitler thought the Jews were just animals. He walked out of the stadium during the 1938 Olympics when Jesse Owens won the most gold medals, and he said, it's not fair to make my men race against this animal. He thought that Africans, the black Africans, were mostly ape, and the Jews were close to pure ape. Hitler killed off the Jews because of his belief in evolutionism. Now, I agree that he also used some anti-Semitic Catholic doctrine to also kill off the Jews as well. And I said I'm glad that the History Channel admitted like the inferior races. They mentioned that Hitler thought the Jews were an inferior race, and it mentioned that on the History Channel. And basically, the thought of inferior races comes from the idea of Darwinism, which says that evolutionism always says that if one is more higher evolved than the rest, and the inferior races have to be killed off in order for the process to work. Hitler thought he was helping out the theory of evolutionism. So, anyway, Adam and Eve were not white. And I should also mention something that, so basically Adam and Eve had all the colored, like skin color genes all stored up. And because of the curse of sin, everything started like to spread out and stuff like that. I mean, if sin did not occur, then perhaps we'd all have the same skin color. But, and I thought I'd like to share something with you. When I was growing up, I always looked at black people as kind of like, mind you, I used to call them lucky people because I used to think they didn't need to use much sunscreen because, like, they have always black skin and they don't really need sunscreen to block out the UV light, stuff like that. I used to think something funny like that. But anyway, Chatty Spike, what I tried to say in my first, like, you say, oh, I don't remember the devil saying, here, take this apple, and you'll find out a lot of natural selection, mutations. You gave a lot of pseudoscientific credit to evolutionism. And you say, oh, here, eat this apple. We don't know what kind of fruit it was. It just says it's a fruit that hang off a certain tree. I don't know, it might be a fruit tree where we hardly know of, or maybe is not here with us anymore. We don't know what kind of fruit tree it was. But anyway, evolution starting in the Garden of Eden, meaning that you will become a god. Basically, evolutionism says we're getting started off tiny, we're getting bigger and better and stronger and smarter. When reality, scientific evidence, reality, reason, logic, evidence, and the Bible show us quite the opposite. We're getting smaller, weaker, and dumber. There's scientific evidence that we are descended from giants, not primitives. And Hitler used evolutionism to kill off the Jews. He used these train cars that were the same to use for cows and cattle and animals, and he thought the Jews were just advanced animals, just like Charles Darwin thought the Native Americans were advanced animals. And evolutionism says we're related to animals. We're all related. Basically, people are millions and millions of nucleotides apart from animals. And the change of only 3 of those nucleotides are fatal to an animal. Like, if you carefully look at it, kinds have always been kinds. Changes within species do happen, but the changes are limited. There's always been a horse kind, a person kind. There's always been an ape kind, a hominid kind. There's always been bird kind. There's always been a fish kind. Like the Bible already told us in somewhere in 2 Corinthians that all flesh is not the same flesh. There's one kind of flesh of fish, another flesh of man, another flesh of beasts, and another birds, and so on. So we're not all related in this kind of like coming from one single cell. Like we're different kinds, all divinely created by God, and it hasn't changed. By that we are basically the stewards of this earth. And I understand why people like to think that they're animals nowadays, because animals seem to have more rights than humans these days. And when did ever in the supposed evolutionary changing times did humans split off from animals and then be called humans and animals? When did that ever change? Like if we're animals, why are we calling them animals and calling ourselves humans? I mean, the Bible clearly says that we have dominion all over the earth to rule over the animals. I mean, we're clearly capturing animals and putting them in zoos and, like getting the animals we need for food and putting them in butcher shops and so on. We're clearly having rule over the animals. But I am against poaching and pollution and so on, destroying things unnecessarily. We only need those for food. We only need what we need to survive. Stuff like that, for food, stuff like that. Not maliciously killing off all these beasts and so on for money. I mean, just like the Bible says, love of money is the root of all evil. And so, that's all I had to say. Adam and Eve were not white. I know this has a much more than just discussing why Adam and Eve could not have been white. But forget all the Michelangelo paintings. Those are flawed visual aids. So that's all I had to say. See you later.